Good to go, James?
Almost.
Okay.
You're all set.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The February 16th Town of Newington Conservation Commission meeting. First point is roll call. Ms. Gibbons, please call the roll.
Okay, Ben Ancona III. John Bashant,
Here.
Philip Locke. John Casasanta,
Here.
Bernadette Conway,
Here.
Richard Leverrier,
Present.
Alan Paskowitz, Andreas Sadil,
Here.
Max Turgeon,
Here.
Jeff Wagner,
Here.
Okay.
For the record,
We're
Mr.
missing-
Ancona did indicate that he wouldn't be available this evening by email.
Thank you. As a point of order, I think for everyone to know, Commissioner Block has formally submitted his resignation for the commission. To that end, I'm going to seat Bernadette Conway in Commissioner Block's seat this evening. And since we're missing Alan Paskowitz, I'm going to seat Max Turgeon in his place tonight. All right, let's proceed. Public participation on non-agenda items, each speaker limited to 2 minutes. James, do we have anyone waiting in the waiting room to comment?
We have one individual, and I just found our liaison on the other side, so I'm going to move Ms. Bedraco over. If the individual attending is interested, they can use the raise hand feature inside of Zoom or *9 on their telephone to be recognized. Doesn't appear that they're looking to speak at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's proceed. Category 4, acceptance of minutes from a regular meeting of December 15th, 2020. Are there any additions or corrections from the commission?
I read them through and I didn't see any glaring corrections that were needed, so.
Okay. Anyone else?
I read them also, and I didn't see anything that was different from what we discussed.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagner. If there's no one else, may I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes of December 15th, 2020 as received?
Motion to accept the meeting minutes of December 15th as received.
Moved by Commissioner Leverrier. Do I have a second?
I second it, Commissioner Wagner.
Commissioner Wagner, second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? And Commissioner Conway, you're going to abstain for this evening. So I don't think you were at the
Yes.
last meeting.
I was not present, so I abstain.
So 1 abstentions. Motion passes. Ms. Gibbons, are you okay?
yes, I am.
All right.
Andreas,
Yes.
before you go to this new business, I need to mention something, if I may. Just so we're all aware, there's a Scrivener's error on the agenda that went out. The application number that you see before you on the agenda you received is incorrect. The one on the screen is the correct application number, which is 2021-01. And just to make that point clear to everyone, we didn't notice it till late today, so we couldn't amend the agenda because we were within the 24-hour window.
Noted. Thank you. All right, moving on to new business, section 5, application 2021-01, 285 Willard Avenue for a single-family home within the regulated area. Owner applicant John Wachowski, 529 Middletown Road, Farmington, Connecticut, 06032. Is the applicant present this evening?
I believe he is. Yeah, you're muted, John. If you can hear us, you can unmute yourself.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, I'm present.
So state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is John Watkowski. The address is 529 Middle Road in Farmington, Connecticut, 06032.
Okay, thank you. So let's proceed with your presentation of your proposed permit. We have your blueprints, but let's describe the nature of the project, specifics. I'll ask a few questions and then we're gonna throw it open to the rest of the commissioners for their comments.
Yes, it's a, just like you mentioned before, it's a single family house with, I guess, on the corner of the property, there's some wetlands and all that, and nothing major to it. I don't think we're going into the wetland. We just, I guess we're so close to it or so. That's pretty much in it, you know. We're looking just to excavate it and then replant the grass and, you know, maybe plant some shrubs around the house, and that's pretty much what we're planning to do.
So it appears that the disturbance in the wetland is in the upper left-hand corner here of your map. There's 0.1 acres was the actual disturbance in the wetland proper, correct? And-
Yes, it's near the deck area, I believe, because the deck is about 5 feet from the wetland boundary. I believe they have some grading over there.
Yeah,
Right.
yes, I believe so, yes.
And it
Now, is
just,
this deck going to be at ground level or is it going to be on beams?
I think it will be probably 8 feet higher than the ground level. Just looking on the plans, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm assuming it will be 8 feet from the ground.
Mhm, mhm. Now, I noticed on the map there is quite a slope. There's a whole, you start from the front at 76, 75, 72, and it's quite an embankment there as it goes into that wetland area. I'd like to
Yes.
have a better feel for what's the characteristics of the wetland. You're almost right into the wetland.
Mhm.
It would be better for the commission if we have some idea what that nature, of what's behind this property immediately adjacent to the wetland, what exactly is back there.
Okay, yeah, I'm assuming when we get all the way to the bottom, it's a flat land. There's no hill, but it's from my property, it's going down, yes, just like you mentioned, yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Mr. Hinckley,
yes, just so we're all aware, this area does slope down to Piper Brook proper, which is not on his property, but it is off to the west there. Piper Brook will eventually be there. I believe the clerk also has an aerial view that rendering that I gave him that he could bring up just to see. You're just going to pretty much see a wooded area, but you may be able to pick up part of the brook. But it is off of his property, the brook.
now, we'd like to go and have that added to the map, some sort of additional definition. Mr. Woodlowski, would that be a problem to better place that on the map for our orientation?
Yeah, I would have to talk to my engineer over there, so if he can do it, I'm sure he can do it, you know.
Another question that I had is where are the leader lines for the house? I mean, all this, you show the plan, but what does the drainage look like in this project? Where, when you're finally done, where is, let's go back to the map real quick and then we'll go back to the overhead shot there. But what is the drainage plan around the property?
To be honest with you, I didn't discuss that, and I thought we're gonna just expose it to the surface, the drainage from the gutters.
So it's going to be
But-
overland, is what you're saying.
Yes, over the land, yeah.
But it appears by the grade we're talking, it's going to go into Piper Brook. That's the plan. It would wind up in Piper Brook.
Hmm.
The way the topo is, that is where it would go. Yes, Chairman.
Yeah.
Now, the driveway you have here, which way the vehicle is going to be entering, to a side street and work northerly to the house? This proposed driveway, where is that going to be orientation wise. The car is going to be making a turn off of Willard and then another turn onto the right hand. So if I'm going north, it's going to be a left and then a right onto the property.
It's going to be right to the property, but it's off of Willard Avenue. There's a private way that I'm sharing between the two condos. So it's like almost like a private driveway or so. So it's the entrance to the house. It's not off the Willard Avenue. It's off the private road or private property.
Over there on the north there, which says bituminous driveway, that's going to be the entrance. And then with the head-
That's the
I'm
south.
pretty-
The south, I think.
I'm pretty
Yeah, it's
bad with
on-
directions, so yes.
Yes, it is on the south side, and that is an existing driveway, is it not?
Yes.
Yes.
So, one comment that I have, okay, so it's going to be there and then you're going to be making a right-hand turn up into the driveway, there, right? Into that area.
Yes.
My question is, how flexible are you finalized with the plan in order to get a little bit away from the wetland? You see the 36.5 foot line? If we could shift that over to the right, would that eliminate the disturbance in the wetland? Yeah. If we shifted that over an amount and get that disturbance out of the wetland, is that something feasible?
Yes, we were planning to do it. I was planning to do it so that way you can fit at least 2 cars on the driveway, not disturbing the way. But you know, there's a room to shift the house a couple feet closer to it, so there's no problem. We can probably adjust that
To
closer.
the right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a 35-foot frontage, but so you'd have to get a variance.
Right, he can, yeah, he's got to stay within the 35 feet.
Oh,
From
well,
Willard Avenue?
Outside.
from Willard
Correct.
Avenue.
Yeah, he has a 35-foot front yard setback, so he can't encroach into that without a variance, and I doubt that they're going to grant a variance for that.
Okay. I mean, if you're looking on the sideways, what's the step out from the sideways property you gotta be? What was it, 10 feet from the property lines or that's 35?
10 in that
Yeah.
zone.
You have 10 foot in the side yard, 35 foot in the front.
See,
Okay.
I'm trying to get you out of that wetland area, so we don't touch the wetland proper. So can that deck be moved over to the other side of the house? How flexible are you, maybe moving that south, just to the other side of the house?
Just a quick question. How far I'm going with the deck toward the wetlands? Because, I actually never discussed it that how far we're going close to it, so we can shift
Yeah.
it around it.
Yeah, it looks, by scale, it's about 5 feet, the deck from the wetland line. And you have to do some grading around that. So I think what they're asking is if you could move that deck to the farther south down towards the driveway. That way you get it farther away from the wetland proper.
Yes,
And
it's definitely possible for me to shift it down the deck. So that way I will be out of the wetlands. If that would be the case, I definitely could figure out something to move that deck. Because I believe that deck is 12 feet wide, so we can reshift it and make it toward the driveway more closer and just get out from that area there. Yes.
Sorry, this is Richard. Who's
Right,
sharing the
Commissioner
screen
Lau, yeah.
right? Hi, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who's sharing the screen right now?
It's a town clerk.
Can you show me where the so-called wetland proper is and show a line with it, maybe with the mouse?
I can, but you can pinch in on that screen and you should be able to enlarge it and see it.
Sure. I mean,
It's the line there.
I'm
He zoomed in.
not that great at map reading though. That's
See,
my
it's
issue.
a
Okay.
line that has a little sawtooth in it.
Yeah. Okay.
That is the wetland line.
Okay. Now, how far
Just be clear for Mr. Commissioner Laurier, it's that spiky line, there with the little points.
Yep.
That is the
Okay.
wetland, okay? And then there's the
I see.
100-foot buffer. There's the 100-foot buffer from that. So the house is essentially in the 100-foot buffer area. But those spiked line, that is the wetland, the border of the wetland, not the buffer, the wetland. And if you see in
Correct.
this
Yes.
upper left-hand corner here, this little triangle, see where the 60 is? you know, in the box there's a little triangular area. Yeah, and then you see the disturbance to the left of that, and then you see the wetland line to the right of that. So that is basically wetland disturbance.
So my question, perhaps if it's I don't know if it's a procedurally appropriate to the owner here. I mean, is it, would the deck be appropriate anywhere else, or would it just not be accessible? Would it just be like, I can't get to a deck anywhere else from this spot?
The deck is, John Bashant here, just want to clarify, the
Mr.
deck is
Bashant.
out. Yeah, I'm sorry. The deck is out of the wetland right now, about 5 feet out. So,
Correct.
and I just want to make one more correction that it was mentioned that the disturbance is 0.1 acre, but it's 0.01.
0.1.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Barrier, did you have any more questions?
Yeah. I mean, because if we're talking 5 feet, I mean, you know, sticking to questions only, is it possible to put a deck, say, on the other side of the house, or is that just for functional purposes not practical?
No, it's not practical. It's not practical to do it on the
Okay.
other side.
Just so, all right, just so I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Bashant, you're next.
So if we're done with, if the applicant doesn't have any more to offer, I would just, you know, looking at it, you know, we don't have LID regulations anymore, but because the entire, all the impervious area of the property is going to slope to the wetland, we know that. If we could have, I would like to see some, you know, simple mitigation measures, maybe just to slow down a flow, or some plan at least to see where the runoff is going to go. There is an existing driveway, so I imagine the new driveway is going to drain back to the existing one, and I think there's a catch basin in that driveway anyway. But like you, the chairman mentioned the roof leaders, and so I would like to see some, you know, not expensive, not high tech, or, you know, something that requires a lot of engineering or something, but just I'd like to hear if there's any mitigation controls at all for the runoff to try to slow down or what's the term, attenuate the runoff
The flow.
a little bit.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
definitely.
Is there anyone else?
It's definitely possible to do that. But like I said, I would have to go back to my engineer and ask him for that detailed work.
Commissioner Casasanta has his hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question for the applicant. On the west side of the property, on the slope down to Piper Brook, are there any plans for that, or are you going to leave it in its current natural state? What I saw from the overhead, it appeared to be heavily wooded. You weren't planning on making that into a lawn. With that kind of slope, that would be kind of difficult to maintain. But I was just kind of curious of if you had any plans for the west side of the property.
No, I don't. We would leave it naturally the way it is. We would probably just clean it a little bit close to the driveway, but not going down the slopes, no.
Thank you.
Okay, can we go to the overhead shot real quick? Can we see that area? Go to Mr. Casas, Commissioner Casasanta's point. Can we go to the Google Earth view? So there's no tree cutting going to be involved here, Mr. Woodkowski. Is there going to be any tree cutting there to make room here?
That's the only for the house, and that's where you see the stock area there. That's the only area that we were planning to clear. Just the stock area there, and you know.
What do you mean by stock area? What does that mean, sir?
For the temporary topsoil. For the pile, stockpile area it's on the plans.
Stockpile. So how much would be cleared on this map? Can we just, how much, can you just throw some lines on here showing what would need to be cleared in order to make room for the house or any dirt stockpiles?
In the area that it's 72, along the way, the 72 height of the ground.
Can we go back? Let me go see.
I see it.
72 goes all the way back.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty much the whole area of the house, Chairman.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to overlay that on the Google Earth view.
If you
But
go
it
to,
looks like there's going to be considerable tree cutting to make room. It looks like, if I am correct on that?
Just the area that you see the house and maybe 10 feet from the house. That's it.
Well, how big's?
if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Bashant?
I don't know if James has access to the CROG mapping, but on CROG mapping, you could have the overlay of the property on the aerial view. So I'm looking at it now. It's not a big difference. I mean, but you could just get a little bit better.
You want
of
to
an
share
idea.
can Commissioner Bashant share his screen?
No, I'm on my phone looking at it on my phone, so I don't know how, I wouldn't know how to share the screen anyway, but, and so if I may, it looks like there'll be no disturbance past the sediment control, correct?
Yes.
So they're not even in the future, or I don't know if we have any control over that, but I think that's what they're getting at, is that that's a natural buffer right now to that wetland, so I don't think that there should be a lawn there.
No, nothing. No plans for the future to disturb that area there.
Beyond the sediment control.
Yes.
And Mr. Hinckley, is that something that could be conditioned, or is that beyond our
That's
scope?
it's a little overreaching. I mean, what you guys may or may not approve is going to be on this map. So going forward, any other activity back there, obviously
Shouldn't
would
be
have-
happening, in other words.
Right, shouldn't be happening. And if it does, they should come before the commission. If they're going to be trying to fill it and flatten it out to make a lawn, if this applicant ends up selling the property at some point in the future, yes.
But you
So
don't think
what you
conditioning it wouldn't be some proper, then you're saying?
how are you going to condition it? I mean, you can ask the applicant to add things to the map. We can have him put the no intrusion into this area without a permit by the Conservation Commission, which is done on some subdivision plans. You could do a note like that on the wetland area.
Yeah, I'm just asking if it's proper even to bring it up.
We could do something like that. Yes.
Okay. Just so no one went in there and clear cut and, like you said, tried to put a lawn in, like
Right. Not
Commissioner
necessarily
Casasanta
condition it, but
mentioned.
have him add that note to the plan.
Okay.
Just like you saw it, there's a pretty big slope. So, in order for you to, it's just almost, I don't think it's possible to put a lawn there.
Yeah.
Right.
We've seen pretty steep lawns around town. So.
Right. And then at the same time, when I walk the lot, there's not that many trees. There's smaller trees. There's not big trees. There may be, 5-6 inches thickness of it, the trees. There's not that many major big trees on that property there.
Okay, Commissioner Wagner, do you have any comments? I'll go through the roll call. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
The only thing I'd worry about, like you said, clearing for the erosion. So it's such a steep incline. If there's the water coming off the gutters, if he's going to leave the trees as be, it'll control the erosion. So I think that'd be an important thing to think about. Because it is a steep, you don't want to disturb it too much because it's such a steep incline that if it rains really hard, it's going to erode out.
Yeah.
So at the same time, can we just put it in the pipe and release it to the wetland there? So just not to have any erosion, or we have to be somewhere underground?
Well, we talked at engineering and see, the question is, what's the speed of the flow going to be potentially? And what's in the wetland that may be impacted by that flow? That's what we're trying to get to find out. That is the question before us.
So at the same time, we're just looking on the back area there of the gutters, right? We're not worried about the front of the gutters of the house from looking from Willard Avenue, or?
I would say so because the front's pretty, it's kind of flat. It's at that back area how it slopes down. And if you look at the property, when you go there at the bottom of that hill, there is like a floodplain for Piper Brook. So it's very, marshy down there, or the creek.
So actually this area, I can try to do the gutters toward the front area there, toward the driveway, and then put it underground. I'm sure he would do some kind of dispose of the water there just for the back of the house. So that way we don't have any access to much water there on that back.
So what they're looking for is either, two things. They're looking to slow down the velocity of the water and if possible, infiltrate it back into the ground rather than just releasing it overland.
Right, right. That's exactly, yes. That I'm sure that would be no problem for that, to do that.
Commissioner Alvaro, yeah, you had your hand up, and then Commissioner Casasanta.
Yes, thank you. Question to the applicant, and let me preface it. 5 feet from the wetlands to me is too close. Hypothetically, would you be willing to work with a project that was, instead of 16 feet in length, 10 feet in length? Question to the applicant.
You're talking about the deck.
Deck.
Yeah.
10 feet, it's kind of small area there for the deck when you put a picnic table and all this. I'm sure I can, in the worst case, I can try to figure out how to do it way around it. So I would be out at least, 10 feet from the wet area there, wetlands?
Well, yeah, 11 feet. If you were to chop 6, you'd be 11, yes.
I'm sure I can maybe refigure the deck to be away from the wetlands as far as possible.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Commissioner Casasanta.
No, I was just going to comment. I was very happy with the applicant's response about trying to funnel the water towards the front of the house and keeping the west side of the property as wooded will really mitigate a lot of the runoff problems that would occur if those trees were removed. So in that regard, I don't have as many concerns because that part of the property sounds like it's going to be retained as is. So that mitigates a lot of my concerns.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Conway, do you have any questions? I'll go to you.
Thank you. I'm being so new to the commission. I'm still absorbing a lot. I don't know if any of my questions might be past our purview. I have concerns about the five feet to the wetlands. Is this something that, are we setting a precedent with allowing something this so close, or is this something that's already in practice? And another question.
Well, that's the first question, Commissioner. Let's still go there. Okay. I don't think there's any rule in the game, Mr. Hinckley. I'm not aware. It's a case-by-case basis. We have to look at each application. There is precedence for building in the buffer. I will say my concern is not so much the 6 feet, it's a disturbance in the wetland. That is basically my concern, is trying to get the disturbance out of there and leave the wetland alone. That's my main concern. The 6 feet, that's negotiable between us, between the applicant and the town. But my main concern is that triangular area there. I want to leave the wetland alone. That's my personal concern. Not really that close. Once we're out of there, that's, it is going to be, that is negotiable. So it's when everything is settled, but I don't like in the wetland, we're doing a disturbance in the wetland. That's where I keep harping to get that, move that deck, whatever he needs to get that disturbance out of the wetland. That's my point that I was trying to make earlier. So
Yeah,
continue.
and to
Mr.
follow
Conway.
that up, I know sorry, I know that there was discussion earlier about moving the deck. He seemed agreeable, but I don't know if it's actually being moved. It sounds like it's back to being staying put in that position where it's where it is right now. So where are we with that?
I
Commissioner, I
believe the-
suppose that would come down to the vote, right? I mean, that would be needed
Commissioner
to
Laurier.
be amended. I'm sorry. Yes, sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry to interrupt. But yes, I suppose that would be like something that if it was to be voted no, that would be to be amended by Mr. Applicant. If am I correct, Mr. Commissioner?
Well, I believe the applicant is amenable to looking at potentially moving it. I don't know if he's made the decision right away. Obviously, we're not
Okay.
voting on it tonight, but that'd be something that he would look and bring back a revised plan at the next meeting.
Fair enough.
From some of our comments. I will work with him to see if we can get him to move it. Or as the chairman suggested, even if maybe like you guys have said, maybe shorten the deck, reconfigure it, just to move the grading completely out of the wetland. That's what I think you guys are all looking to avoid one way or the other.
Ms. Conway, I
So-
apologize for interrupting, by the way.
As long as the applicant's amenable, we'll work on it. He'll have to, talk with his engineer, obviously, to see if they can come up with some other designs, et cetera. I'm taking notes and we'll figure it out going forward.
Commissioner Conway, you had a
For
second
ans-
question?
That was my second question. So thank you for answering thoroughly. And but I would be most comfortable with the deck being reconfigured or moved completely also. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Turgeon, you have any comments? Make sure I hear from all the commissioners. Do you have any comment or concern, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I kind of just echo Commissioner Castasanda's sentiments about if we can figure out a way to mitigate, the runoff, maybe transferring it. I'm not too familiar with the details of that, but I agree that the 6 feet is not as much as the problem, but with the floodlands and that disturbed area, that does concern me a little bit. But most of my questions have been answered so far. But I appreciate you checking in on me.
Commissioner Bashant.
So I kind of agree with you, Mr. Chairman, that the deck is not my biggest concern. It's not a totally impervious area. There's usually slots between the deck boards. And so that part doesn't bother me. And if you look at the topo lines, all the water is going to drain to the northwest there. So, and that's right in that corner above the deck. So it doesn't matter where you bring the water out. If you bring it out in the front yard, it's still going to flow around to the back, right down that corner, if you look at the topo line. So
Yep.
channelizing the water underground is not the best LID. You want it to hit the ground and have a chance to soak
Percolate.
into the ground.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think, back to that idea about a little bit of attenuation, it would have to go in that corner. So it would actually be, right under the deck or it would have to be actually in the wetland. So I don't know if we could approve anything in the wetland, but if it was something that was supposed to protect the wetland, it might not be it might be something that people could accept. But, some type of, a stone, a riprap or something like that, that would slow the water down and possibly filter it out. Again, not getting too technical or with engineers or anything, but probably Eric could come up with a simple plan that would attenuate some of that runoff. But doesn't matter where you bring it. If you bring it to the front, unless you go right to the street into a storm drain, it's all going to flow around. It's all going to flow around the back anyway. So, and if it goes in a storm drain, it's ending up in Piper Brook anyway. So,
Commissioner Wagner.
My question is, I have a question again. The disturbance, is it going to be the excavator driving into the wetlands to build the deck? That's what the disturbance is going to be?
No, we're definitely going to try to stay over the wetland as much as possible. And we're talking about just a deck, so maybe a couple piers or something like that. So, it's most likely it's going to be dug by hand for the piers or so. It's not.
Okay. That's good, yeah, because if you don't have equipment back there, I don't know if you can. If you look there, it's pretty big hill there. So Yeah, if it's dug by hand and there's no vehicles back there, that would work out pretty well.
Yeah, it's definitely not for the deck area there, no.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, real quick.
Mr. Hinckley,
Yes, I know a couple of commissioners have kind of asked or hesitated about, can we do things in the wetland? You guys can approve things in the wetland proper. That is under your purview. Just so you're all aware, you can do it. It has been done in the past. Typically not whole houses, obviously. Stuff more like of the nature of what you're seeing tonight is stuff that has been approved by past commissions that are actually in the wetland proper, so to speak. And typically they've always worked with the applicants to try and get them to, reduce that disturbance. But it is within your purview to approve or not approve or approve with conditions going forward.
Commissioner Wagner,
I think,
and then Commissioner
like
Bashant.
Mr. Bashant said, if you make the drain off like a rock drain off, they'll disperse the water and it'll calm it down without the erosion. I think that'd be a great idea if you could put that in his plans, because then that would solve the issue of the water going down the northwest corner there.
Yeah, I'm sure you can come up with some kind of riprap, stone, or small level spreader type of thing
That'd be
to just
perfect.
dissipate the water. Yep.
Yes, I'm sure that's definitely possible there. I don't see any problem there. And at the same time, if I have to refigurate the deck and shorten and maybe twist it a little bit, then I'm, added extra 5 feet off the wetland, instead of being 5 feet and being 10 feet, I can probably do that. Like I said, I didn't sit down closely, for the deck, but I would definitely like to get at least a deck of size of the 10 by 16, but we can make it definitely shorter than the 16 feet long.
Okay, Commissioner Bashant, and then Commissioner Lavariere. Commissioner Bashant.
Yeah, just back to that attenuation, it looks like it would have to go in the wetland. So Eric said that we could do that. And I think that it would be to the benefit of the wetland. So I would sleep comfortably with that. And then as far as the deck goes, don't forget it's 8 feet off the ground. So if it was the piers of the deck that are making people uncomfortable, you could always cantilever that, you could put the piers back 5 feet more and just cantilever the deck itself. So a little more framing involved, but that could be done too.
Yes.
Commissioner Lavariere.
Yes, number one, I would feel more comfortable with the deck going more backwards than with going, with the map that we're looking at leftward. I guess that's westerly. And as to Commissioner Bashant's point, respectfully, I do understand what you're saying, but there's other sorts of wildlife besides the ground level too. And, I have not seen the application zone with my own eyes, but there's more to it than just a topographical map. And 5 feet is close. I would feel more comfortable with it going backwards, and that's my 2 cents. And obviously all the other commissioners have their own voice and whatnot, but I just wanted to make that known.
Okay, any other comments from commissioners?
Just one more, if I may.
Commissioner Bashant.
So this is, I don't know, at least 10 or 12 or 15 feet above the actual water course. But is there any purpose of, would it be helpful to have a soil scientist or have the soil tested there for wetland soils? I'm not saying he should amend his map because that gets expensive, but, it is, well, as far as, I'm just curious if it would be wetland soils. And I would like to ask the applicant if he didn't mind if we took a walk, not as a group, but if an individual could go there and take a look at it too in between our meetings, if he didn't mind.
Yes, I was going to bring that up next, a site visit. I was definitely interested in a site walk, just to get the lay of the land, so to speak. We have to arrange that with Mr. Hinckley and with the applicant. What are your thoughts, Mr. Wadlowski?
Yes, that's no problem. We can walk we can walk on the property. And
My only concern, excuse me, is that now's not the greatest time with the snow on the ground. You know, it's not the
Right.
greatest, what
I'm just saying, if that's the only deck issue, I'm willing to make it much shorter, the deck, and maybe refigure the deck area there that, I'll be away from the wetland as far as possible. But I would have to just talk to my engineer to how to switch the deck area there, not to go out to the wetlands. Like I said,
but I think Mr. Laveriere's question, or Mr. Bashant's question was want to get a little feel for what's back there. It's not just the deck for me, but it's just to see what that area looks like without the snow cover, and just see what the trees, what's vegetation's back there, just, versus just a 2D map, to see it, appreciate the embankment and what's there already and what may be impacted. That's not so much, I'm not so much worried about the deck per se, but getting a feel for what the topography and what that wetland looks like behind there on the property.
Just to be clear, I meant individually, but you're talking about a group visit, which gets a
Well,
little more,
Whatever.
yeah.
Yes,
I-
not just me, but everyone who's interested wants to go walk by, get a feel. I would be interested. I don't know who else would be, but we have to arrange that with the applicant. But I would try to delay it, but the snow on the ground, or, it's very nothing, you can't appreciate the area right now, this time of year, in the middle of winter. It's just, that's my only concern, but I am interested in doing a site walk personally.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, yes, that can be arranged, but we cannot have a quorum there at
Yeah.
a
That's
site
why I
walk.
said individually, probably better.
Yeah, so it's, we don't want to hold up the applicant there and have them running, different meetings. So, if we can get 2 groups or whatever, or if you guys just want to select 3 members to go, something like that. That's been done in the past. The last one we did, the chairman just selected, I think, 2 other members and himself, and we did a site visit that way. But I leave that to you guys going forward. And yes, I will arrange it with the applicant, whatever you guys decide.
If I could just add that it would be
Commissioner
really,
Bashant?
sorry, John Bashant, it'd be helpful if we had the corners of the deck flagged, where it is now, and then we could determine afterwards where it might go. But if you could have that, if you could stake out where the corners of that deck would go, if it wasn't too much engineering involved in doing that.
Okay, so getting back, who would be interested in a sidewalk besides myself? So it's Commissioner Barbier, Wagner, Bashant. I can't see everybody at once. Who
Conway.
else is that? Who's raising? Conway is there, okay. Turgeon. Well, John, why don't you join the club?
I know, come on, John.
Make it a clean sweep.
No, that's all right, Mr. Chairman.
All
There's
right.
going. I'll
That's fine.
get
So
the
1, 2,
feedback.
3, 4, 5, 6 people, right? So, Mr. Hinckley, what would be appropriate? We have 6 people interested.
We can do it 1 of 2 ways. You can, we can just do 2 groups, 3 each, each get a half hour on the site or whatever, something like that. So we don't tie up the applicant. We can all just,
I mean,
whatever
the applicant
day.
doesn't even need to be there personally, but he doesn't
No.
have to be there. But just as long as he flagged it, that we have orientation, that's all would be required. But there's not, we've done that without the applicant. Obviously, we don't want to tie the applicant up. So,
it's actually no problem for me to be there just to explain what it is,
okay.
I could probably measure myself. I don't think it's for me would be, I'm not 100% sure if my guy would be able to stake the house at this moment, even deck, I know the corners property are there and all that. So I will have to talk with him, see if he would be able to do that.
There's probably enough information on the map where you could pull a couple of distances to get a rough idea of where the deck is going to be, rather than paying him to come out and stake it. That's my feeling on it anyway.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That's the same thing.
Okay. no other comments. The one thing left for us to decide is if a public hearing on this application is necessary. I can tell you there has been one private citizen has stepped forward and wishes to comment on this particular application. I will say that. Unfortunately, they can't be here tonight because we don't have public participation on agenda items tonight.
Mm.
But what is the feeling of the group as far as allowing a brief public hearing on this application? Commissioner Laurier.
I always err on the side of allowing part and encouraging public participation.
Commissioner
So
Castasanto.
I would want
I
that.
take that as a yes. Commissioner Castasanto, I'm going to poll the group.
I'm a little bit ambivalent about it, but with it being so close to the wetland proper, maybe a public hearing might be the best course of action.
Commissioner Bashant.
Well, since you've already said that there's one individual who would like to talk about it but can't, I don't see how you have any choice. You pretty much,
All right.
like you said, a brief one. It's usually just one meeting,
Right.
you know, so. And there's probably not going to be a lot of participation, but if this one individual,
Okay. Commissioner Wagner.
I agree. I think you should have, if there's one person that has concern with it, then you should let him voice his concerns.
Commissioner Conway.
I agree. I think there should be a public hearing. Thank you.
Commissioner Turgeon.
Yep, I agree as well. We should hear what this person has to say.
All right. If there's no further questions for the applicant right now, is there any, we can move to make a motion for a public hearing on this application.
No, I
Secretary,
question.
go ahead. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Sure.
so to my understanding, we have just the issue because the deck is so close to the wetland. You know, I'm trying to avoid the hearing. So this way, if I make the deck shorter and still I would have to go through the hearing just because I'm in the buffer zone or of the wetland, if that's correct?
In the wetland, right. In the wetland proper and in the buffer.
So even if I refigure the deck, I would still have to go through the hearings too?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
So here are my action items before we move that. You know, we're not allowed to tell you what to do. These are just our concerns, and you'll go with your engineer and discuss it. What's best in back and forth, what's the best for you. But there's the question about the deck itself. Is there any movement in the deck? Shifting it, making it shorter, shifting it on the plan. That's for you to decide and report back to us. And the next meeting, you can mention what your changes are. The second item is the drainage issue. We want concrete evidence, what the drainage is going to be, what's your plan. I can't tell you what it is, but we want to minimize the impact to the wetland, the runoff. How will that be dealt with? So that's for you and your engineer to decide and comment back to us. One other also on the map itself is likes to put the boundary of the Piper Brook on the map. We've got the abutting property there, Fenwick Estates in there, but where's that, the bounds of the wetland on either side that encompasses the Piper Brook? I think that should be documented on the plan. So where that is, that width of that, of the brook, of the wetland on both sides.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Hickman.
Sorry to interrupt. Typically, when they don't show necessarily the width of the brook, they'll show the center line of the brook, because he's going to have to
He
hire a
doesn't own
surveyor
the
to
other
go,
side.
to go on somebody
okay.
else's property. So typically, just the center
That's fair.
line is shown. Okay.
That is fair. That is fair. Thank you. And my last item here, we'll probably know this better when we do our sidewalks. Is there any plantings there? Obviously it is I'm interested in seeing the embankment. What can be done there to slow the water down and have, and as a barrier between the property and the wetland proper? Is there something that could be done there? We've done on other applications, put bushes, blueberry wild bushes there to, as a buffer zone. That's just a suggestion. I would have a better feel for that when I actually saw the property. But that sort of thing as a barrier, that would be helpful. That's just a suggestion. Soil scientist, I'm not going to make, it's up to you. I'm going to go by what's on the wetland map. I'm sort of satisfied, with the boundary that you have on the map. But I'm not going to force, I'm going to assume your map is accurate as far as the wetland boundary and the buffer line.
Yeah, they are accurate with the town map.
So I'm okay with the way the map is as far as the boundary. So those are kind of my action items, listening to the commissioners. I would like to allow, public participation, at least just for one meeting. To allow the public to comment, have a public notice. So if there's any other further comment,
If I may, Mr. Commissioner,
who's speaking?
John Bashant.
John Bashant, please, go ahead.
Question for Eric to allay some of the concerns that the applicant had. Can the public participation be part of a regular meeting? In other words, it doesn't necessarily have to delay it. I don't know what the period of time the sign has to be out there, but
No,
both things.
yeah, a couple things. Wetlands doesn't require the sign posting like TPZ does.
Oh, okay.
Because
All right.
we notified the abutters. The public hearing would be at the next scheduled meeting, which you wouldn't act on this application until then anyway. So you'll
Yeah.
have the public hearing that night. And if you guys are finished and you close the public hearing at the next meeting, you can take action on his application that night. So there's
I'm not rushing to take action, and I'm saying, but can we just go right in from the public hearing into discussing, the
Absolutely.
application again? Yeah, okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
he
And then
doesn't-
if you
he's
decide
losing
not
an
to,
extra time or anything.
yeah, so you can take action after the public hearing, one way or the other, or you can table it and move it off another month or so if you have more questions or concerns.
Okay.
But yes, they can both be on the same night at the regular meeting in March.
So the public hearing, in other words, doesn't delay his application.
No,
Okay.
It could be
unless you
done the
continue-
same night if we feel so. If we feel like
Right.
it, we could do it that same evening if necessary.
I'm not
If-
trying to
if-
rush it. I just wanted to clarify that for him.
yeah,
Yes,
if
sir.
you do get a lot of public participation and you continue the public hearing, then yeah, that would delay it if you continue the public hearing.
Mhm. Okay.
So that being said, can I have a motion of this application?
Mr.
Five
Chairman,
minutes.
perhaps we could do, but to point of clarity, maybe we could do it as two, as a motion to allow the public inspection as well as to table it until public participation. Am I right on that?
You should
Hinckley.
make a motion to hold the public hearing, and
Okay,
then you can table it until after the public hearing if you'd like to do
Alright.
so. Yes.
all right, I motion to table the application of 285 Willard Avenue until a hearing for public participation at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
That is sufficient, Mr. Hinckley?
That should work. Yes.
Just call it a public hearing.
Yeah, public hearing, sure.
Hmm.
That would be on March 16th, I believe.
Yes, it is. So moved from the secretary. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second.
Commissioner Turgeon.
Okay, I'll second from Bernadette Conway. All in favor?
I
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes unanimously.
All right, ma'am, may I make a motion to allow a commissioner inspection in 2 groups of 3 as volunteered by the members of this organization?
Mr. Hinckley, I don't think we need to vote on that. That's something we can do on the side.
No.
That's not, that's as, you don't have to be, that means we would have to be there. If you got distracted,
Correct.
It's that-
Yeah, you don't need a
Okay.
motion. The applicant's amenable
All
to
right,
meeting with that,
Fair
and we'll try and set that up if we, if the snow melts before the public hearing.
All right.
So that's, we'll look forward to your email, Eric, on that, and then we'll divide up. Get a time for everyone, and we'll do it in 2 groups, like we said, and then.
Okay. All right,
And then
John,
just so the rule, just for some of the members here, when we go to the sidewalk, I mean, it's individually, we're allowed to speak to one another. I'm worried about the ex parte aspect of that. There's some rules regarding that, Mr. Hinckley.
Yep, as we all are aware, ex parte communication, either verbally, through email, text, whatever, is frowned upon. So once you have your site walks, or even if you go walk it yourself, you know, you can bring up what you see at the public hearing, but not amongst yourselves prior to that.
But when we're on site, we are allowed to speak to one another.
You
When
can
we're
speak
on
to another,
site.
yes, correct.
On site.
And that's why it's best to have the applicant there, so he can hear what's said and spoken, and have a discussion if one needs to happen.
All right, if there's nothing else, we can table this until next month. Our site visit, we're gonna move on in our agenda.
Yep. So John, I will be in touch with a couple of comments that the chairman spoke about here. I'll send them to you so we're all aware, so you can talk to Alan and see what you need to do.
Yes, that's no problem. Thank you very much.
All right, John, thank you.
Yep.
Moving on to section 6, no old business. Moving on to section 7, public participation on non-agenda items. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes. James, do you have anybody waiting?
And we still have 1 attendee on at this time. They could choose the raise hand feature inside of Zoom, or if they would like to use their phone in the *9 feature. No indication they're interested in speaking at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Section 8, communications and reports. Item A, agent communications. Mr. Hinckley, do we have any comments for the commission?
The only thing I have is in April, as some of you may be aware, the general permit is up for renewal for 5 years. So next month's meeting in March, I intend to have the town engineer available for a little Q&A and discussion of the general permit, its uses, how the town uses it going forward. And then for the April meeting, if you guys want to amend the general permit or just reenact it as it currently exists, that's fine. You will get copies of the general permit for the March meeting for discussion.
Okay, so we're definitely gonna have a March meeting. We have a busy agenda then.
Yep.
Okay. Item B, town council liaisons and communications. Ms. Bedrejko, do you have any comments for the commission?
No, the only thing is the vernal pool revisions were discussed at the last council meeting and there were no objections, so they're going to be voted on at the next council meeting, and I don't anticipate any issues with that at all.
That's good.
Yeah, good to hear. Should I be present for that? Is it going to be on next week, or do I need to be there, or it's just to?
It's just going to read the resolution and vote on it. I mean, you attended and answered some questions at the last one. I mean, you didn't sense any issues from anybody. I certainly didn't.
I can't come. I will volunteer to come just to see it through. That's all right.
Okay, yeah, it will be at the 22nd meeting.
Which one?
The
On a
meeting-
meeting, please do not talk.
Okay, okay.
Mr.
Commissioner
Commissioner?
Bashant.
Yeah, I understand that we made the news with that. Someone told me that there was some discussion on the local news about Newington's vernal pool regulations. I didn't see it, but someone told me they saw it on the news.
It was, I think in New Britain Herald,
Oh, okay.
and it was a little off because it talked about putting vernal pool regulations in, which is really not what we were doing. Is it's just more definitional and explanatory. But I was surprised somebody saw it and mentioned it. But.
They almost made it sound like it was on the, like, on the air, on the TV or, but.
It was
I
on
didn't-
public access. It was on public access.
Oh, yeah? Oh, no, but they don't watch that, so they would have seen it on, it seemed like, I'll clarify that, I'll find out.
We're gonna set the example, Commissioner Bashant. You're setting the example.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll ensure that you receive an invitation to the 23rd meeting.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Nothing else. Item C, pond life research and education. We're missing Alan Paskowitz tonight, so he didn't reach out to me with anything. So we're gonna table that discussion. And moving
Okay.
on. Is there anything else? A motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Moved by
Secretary
Commissioner
Richards.
Lavariere. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Second by Commissioner Casasanta. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, everyone. See you next month.
Thank you.
Next month.
Take care, y'all.
Be safe. Be well.
Bye, everybody.
You too. We'll be in touch.
Hey, James.